What is up, y'all? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today we're back talking about everybody's favorite universe that eventually ends up winning against every other universe for a reason or another, and that is Warhammer 40K. Today, we are talking about my top 3 things that I want to see in the brand new edition, and I guess some of those things look like they're going to be coming because we've been getting a little bit of snippets here and there as to what ninth edition brings to the Warhammer 40K game. So, let's start off with number 3. Now, this is something that I've always wanted ever since we started playing back in 5th edition, and that is for the Xenos to get some more love. Of course, we see like new codices and new models and stuff like that, but anytime the Xenos get some love, it's always like a small amount of love. It's like no matter what, Space Marines always get like the best of the best. They get new models, new sculpts. Whenever there's like a store opening or like an anniversary event, there's always a Space Marine to be had. It'd be really interesting to have new unique figures for the Xeno races. Like there's a lot of possibilities that can happen. For example, maybe have different Gene Stealer cult members instead of it just being human. Maybe you can have like gene stealers that have infiltrated the Eldari, and now they're like tall and slender, but with like purplish skin, or something to still signify that hey, these guys are a little off. Or maybe some like Tau gene stealer cults. All I'm asking is for a model or two, just so we can have something to represent that race that has been infused with the spawn of the Tyranids. Not just that, but in recent times, we've seen that the Primaris have overtaken everything that is Space Marines. It's nice to see the new, age of Primaris Marines and what they bring to the table. And yeah, I mean, they just started recently, so it's like they need new models to kind of I'm not gonna say replace, but that's what it seems like. They're getting new models to have something similar to what the regular line of Space Marines had. So for example, we've got Close Combat Primaris now, which obviously there's Close Combat regular Space Marines. You've got like, I wouldn't say they're Terminator equivalents, but like the aggressors are kind of like a Terminator. You've got Dreadnought equivalents Primaris, tanks. So what I want to see is in ninth edition, obviously we're going to get new Primaris stuff, like that's a given. But I want to see something new or innovating for the classic Space Marines. GW has said themselves that they are not going to phase out the Old Marines. They're not replacing the Old Marines with Primaris, but we haven't seen anything new for the Old Marines in a while. Anytime we get a new character, they've crossed the Rubicon and become a Primaris. So that in and of itself is replacing the old model. If I want to play Mephiston in the current timeline, and like normally, he's a Primaris now. He's bigger, he's better, stronger, which is great, don't get me wrong, but it's like, oh, well, my old Mephiston is like outdated. Obviously, yeah, you can still use them in games and whatnot, but lore-wise, if you're trying to get immersed, it kind of takes away from the immersion if you're playing the old Mephiston, knowing he should be a Primaris Marine. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly GW has in mind for the old line of Space Marines with this new edition. Probably nothing, because 8th edition, all we got is like new characters becoming Primaris, new Primaris vehicles. In the spoilers, well, spoiler alert, first of all, in the leaked images that we got, it shows that we're getting bikers for the Primaris Marines, so that's pretty cool. It's interesting to see what else would become primarized as we transcend into this edition. I'm pretty sure we're going to get like a Primaris Thunderhawk gunship or something like that. So it kind of sucks if you're playing old school Space Marines, because it seems that you're probably not going to get anything in a long time. Or maybe they're trying to get everything equal in terms of Primaris and Classic, so that they could throw the bombshell that they're going to do an Execute Order 66, where the Primaris and Call have seceded away from the Imperium, and now it's the AdMech and the Primaris against the Classics. Which I don't think is going to happen, because like you have big names that have turned over to Primaris, such as Marnius Calgar, like I said earlier, Mephiston, Ragnar Blackmane. These are names that like people know and love, and it sucks if you're gonna force them to choose sides. Like, will they ally with their old Marines who haven't crossed the Rubicon, or will they choose to fight alongside the Primaris against their battle brothers that they have fought, for centuries? That's probably not gonna happen, but it's a thought. Number two is something that I've been wanting for a long time. I believe near the end of 7th edition, they had different types of classes, so to speak, when it comes to psychic powers. You had pyronancy, biomancy, fulmination, technomancy, and that really separated your psychers from, just like the standard I can move things with my mind, I can shoot out mind bullets, to I can invigorate my body as hard as steel, I could command the machine spirit to tear asunder demon engines, or I am a master of electrical manipulation. That really helped in just making these like homebrew chapters your own. If you want a chapter that can channel electricity and geomagnetic force fields and stuff like that, geomancy, fulmination, that's what your characters, your librarians specialize in. And in 8th edition, they took that away. It's like you have all this creativity, all these separate disciplines, psychic disciplines, that was just kind of reduced to, I can smite real good, I'm gonna do smite spam. And I mean, yeah, you could flavor the smite to be in like fireballs or lightning bolts, but it took a lot out of it, and that really, I didn't like that at all. Like, I felt like they went backwards. Where 8th edition was supposed to be like new beginnings, a whole new different direction as to what 40K was. They kind of started from the ground up, and they kind of skipped over on the psychic phase. Eventually, they started doing the adding different disciplines, like the malefic discipline and stuff like that, but it was never to the point of what they had near the end of 7th, where you had just a conglomeration of different disciplines for your psychers. I truly and almost wanted this to be number one, but yeah, psychic powers are something that I really adhere to. It makes your own chapters more, I guess, different. It stands out, it makes them their own, and that's something that I've always wanted with Space Marines, because yeah, you could play vanilla Marines, but if you add that little like sprinkle of they're all about biomancy and they turn their bodies to literal like whips of like thorns and stuff like that, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you're starting to get into a little more of like out there type of ideas, like, is this a genetic flaw that's causing them to be able to conglomerate their bodies into different types of materials or stuff like that. So I mean, that adds to the lore behind your army. Like, is my faction, my chapter, something that the Inquisition is, researching into? Are they falling to chaos? Is that why they're not adhering to the Codex Astartes anymore, and they're starting to delve into different types of sorceries and whatnot? Do they praise Nurgle, and that's why their limbs can like outstretch and become tentacle-like? These kind of things really allow the player to customize their chapter and their minis even more so than what is currently available in 8th edition. So I really hope that GW brings that back in some way, shape, or form, because at that point you had 6 abilities that you can choose from, and you had like a standard one. For example, I think Iron Arm was like the standard, and then you had different other abilities that you can switch it out for and stuff like that. So I don't know, just because right now it's like, yeah, you have specialist psychic powers depending on the chapter, such as the Blood Angels. They have their sanguinary psychic powers, psychic powers, such as Wings of Sanguinius, Blood Lance, that kind of thing. Space Wolves have their runic abilities, Jaws of the World Wolf. And it kind of, depends on what chapter you are as to what psychic abilities you can swap out. But for the most part, it's like, none of that's really that good. Just focus on Smite. Because with the introduction of Mortal Wounds, that was just the bee's knees. That is what everybody kind of decided to go to, because essentially the psychic phase was another shooting phase where you just outright did mortal wounds depending on what you rolled. So if you were playing like Grey Knights or any psyker heavy army, you could easily just spam smite, and that's how tournaments were won for a long time. That's why smite had to be nerfed, restrictions placed, and the tournament aspect changed a little bit because of that. So it's interesting to see how psychic powers are a really great supplement to your forces. I mean, yeah, it sucks if you're playing Necrons or Tau where you can't really do anything about it. No real means of shutting away psychic abilities, like no Deny the Witch or anything like that. You're kind of at the mercy of the smite spam. But yeah, bring back disciplines, psychic disciplines. I really want that. That's really great. And finally, we come to the number one thing that I want to be a thing in 9th edition. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I play 40K, I really enjoy the narrative aspect of it. I think more so than the actual gaming. So I always like to make little like scenarios in my head, or we outright go ahead and go full blown and create like this awesome storyline with like twists and turns. And I really like the whole concept of having a small force and either gaining acquisitionary like resources or depleting your forces, your resources as the matches go on. So for example, we have like, I believe, what's it called, Crusades or Warhammer, it's something like that in 9th edition that they've confirmed that is going to be a thing. So basically you can have your soldiers, you know, almost transform and become so much more than what they started as. And the thing that I'm really looking forward to this is that they can actually get like scars, battle damage, relics, trophies, that kind of thing. So they show, I've said this countless times because I really like this, they show like a Space Marine scout, and then they show him as like captain or something like that, grizzled, white hair, you know, he's got a scar through his eye, something like that. So it's really cool to see all these narratives actually come to fruition through the actions that happen during your games. For example, say your leader goes on a one-on-one duel against a Xeno tyrant, and somehow the Xeno tyrant gets the better of him and leaves him for dead. But as a means of like retaliation, or as a vow to yourself, you can say that your captain has chopped off his arm and says that he will do better next time, and that this is a sign of his weakness. To have a Xeno look down on him and actually spare his life is worse than death. So he cut off his arm to make sure that he trains hard enough so that next time, even with this handicap, he can come out on top against this Xeno tyrant. And that's really cool. How will this play out in the game? I have no idea. Maybe your weapon skill drops by 1, something like that. But then that means that now your commander has to like maybe find some digital weapons or mastercraft his sword to be stronger and better, so that that hindrance is overcome by another ability, another trait, something like that. Maybe he gets a stronger honor guard, or maybe that's when he decides to transcend the Rubicon and become a Primaris. So there's a whole lot of narrative things that you can do to this, and I'm just excited to see what the 40K team has come up with. There's been a lot of different reiterations of this in the past, and none of these really kind of clung to me. They always seemed kind of railroady, which, I mean, it's not like D&D where you can do whatever. Like, the imagination is your limiter. But with these like campaigns and stuff like that, like, there's always an end game. It's almost like a tree branch. Like, you have certain paths you can take. You can divert one way, go the other way, but at the end of it, you always have like one set end path. So with this, you have a little bit more leeway to go with. So say your captain didn't chop off his arm. Maybe he instead replaced his eye with like a digital eye or something like that. So now he's going to be quicker reflexes, that kind of thing. He can maybe see the minute muscle movements of the enemy, and he can react faster to that. Maybe he noticed that his power sword and bolt pistol weren't cutting it, so now he has discarded these weapons and decided to go with like a plasma pistol and a power glaive, something like that. So it's really cool to see how these narrative changes will affect your army, and I don't know, I'm just really excited to see what's going to happen. So, in lieu of that, I'm going to post a link to our narrative kill team battle report that Gersh1 kind of created, and it is really, really cool. There's really awesome, like, dynamic set pieces, the lighting is different, and it's really cool, so check that out at the end of this video. And that's all I got for today. Let me know what your top 3 things that you want in 9th edition is, and let me know what you're looking forward to the most from what they've revealed so far. This is the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you, like I said, in the next. Peace.